welcome to Draught For Upside. I am Brewery Mark. I am joined by Danger Cole.
How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. This weather is kicking my ass though.
Yeah.
And also joining us is Adam White. How are you, sir?
What's happening, fellas? I'm doing great. What's going on with you?
Well, Michigan weather. Don't we all love it?
Yeah, and it really sucks to have 6 horses that you have to bring in, clean all the stalls, put them in the stalls, get up at 5 in the morning, put them back outside.
Yeah, I have enough problems with my 3 children. I don't need to add that.
No.
They unfortunately get to stay inside all day.
Yeah. I still have the donkey inside because she can't go out in the rain. So when I'm off this podcast, I get to go inside. I get to go outside and feed all the horses and everything again.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So we had some crazy NFL games this week, huh?
We did.
It was the first time ever both games went to overtime.
That's kind of surprising.
Yeah. That was crazy. I really thought that. I really thought the Saints were going to pull that off. I mean, obviously that famous blown call that's going to get the world talking about reviewing pass interference, which our buddy Chris, who's not feeling well tonight, has said that he has been a Canadian Football League watcher, and they allow them to challenge pass interference in the Canadian Football League. And he said, you just don't want it because literally every challenge results in a pass interference because it can basically be called on every play. So I don't know. I'm torn on it. I want people to get things right. I want big plays to be able to be reviewed. I don't know if it needs to be the coach's job. I mean, they have these primetime TV cameras everywhere. They have the reviewed and the slow-mo on TV for all of us to see. I say every stadium just sticks a replay ref up in the booth, and if he sees something just flagrant that either needs to be called or overturned, he should just buzz in and allow them to then take a minute to take a look at it.
Yeah, something like that would work. That's the NHL does that.
Mm-hmm.
They they have in New York City they have a central, or it's in Toronto for the NHL, and they watch every single game. They have a replay referee for every single game in the NHL sitting in a room in Toronto, and yeah, they can buzz in at any time.
Yeah, and I like that, and I'm in favor of it in baseball, everything. I want the plays to be gotten right, and I understand there's certain things that are human error, and you know there can be a holding call probably every play, but they need to have somebody in big situations be able to get the call right. I don't know if it needs to be another challenge, but I don't understand why there can't be a replay official in each stadium that can just buzz down when they see something egregious.
Yeah, and I don't see the problem is with this play. It was so obvious, and it was just missed. I don't even think it was close. And they can talk about real time speed and everything, but man, it looked like interference in live.
Yeah, it looked live, and it looked like a excessive hit to me. It looked like a helmet to helmet to me. All of that live when I saw it, I went, ooh, and I was waiting for that flag. I was waiting for that helmet to helmet targeting. He left his feet. He hit him head to head. I mean, I was just waiting for it, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I think that just took all of it just took all the gusto out of the Saints. It was just kind of, they weren't the same team after that play.
Yeah, I think it's a slippery slope to walk though, because if you start reviewing those penalties, are you going to review holding penalties on the offensive line in those critical situations? Because that can, as they've said many times, that can be called on almost every single play. So I think it's tough. John, Danger, I know you're a big baseball guy. Are you in favor of no more home plate umpire and the strike zone just being called by some preset box that shows the strike zone depending on the batter, or where do you stand on that?
I mean, I like the plays getting called right. So if they can prove to me that they can have an accurate system in there with, lasers, whatever they got to do to set the strike zone, I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me. I like consistency, and I like the plays getting called right. And I know Lenny's probably listening and cringing because the old timer is my dad. He hates it. But, there's so much error in the umpire. And the umpire, I mean, the guys like Joe West, shut up. Nobody cares. This guy pisses people off and does controversial things just because he can. A pitcher looks at him funny, he tightens the strike zone. I think it's crap. I think that as consistent as it can be is best for the game, and I'm okay with it. It doesn't bug me. And then you can actually return the strike zone to a proper place too, and not just, individual person's idea of what it should be.
Yeah, I agree with that. The technology is there. Why would you not utilize it to make sure every call is called the same way and called correctly?
Sure. I mean, they've got the basics, right? They've got the little box and Fox tracker. It's all there. And the same thing with the first down line on TV. The technology's there. You just got to implement it. And if that means a microchip gets put in the baseball, I mean, whatever. I don't know that it needs to go there, but if that was the direction that baseball went, I'm okay with it because I want the plays to be gotten right.
Yeah, couldn't agree more there. I think in football it's tough, but especially in those playoff games where there's so much on the line, where one team's worked all season to get to that point, played almost 20 games, and it comes down to a call like that. We talked about it pre-show. It was such a well-played game. There were so many big plays, and it just felt like one of those games that was going to come down to the last possession as the second half wore on.
Yeah.
And for it to end on something like that and force overtime because of a call like that or a missed call like that, it's just unfortunate that it overshadows the quality of football we had over the entire weekend, because it seems like every NFL story is starting with that call and not the fact that Brady's in his 9th Super Bowl and that the Rams are getting another chance at it. So I don't know. I think something has to change, but if this is what spurs that, it sucks for the Saints, but it's got to happen.
And unfortunately, all that aside, it just put us into another overtime where the NFL just can't seem to understand everybody hates the overtime rule. Do you know anybody who likes the overtime rule in the NFL?
No.
Nobody likes it. I don't understand it. Either play a quarter or do college rules or, something. But this whole, both teams have to touch the ball unless the first team gets a touchdown. But if the first team gets a field goal, then we keep going. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. Give them a 10-minute quarter, give them 15-minute, whatever they want to do, or play like college and go back and forth. But I hate the overtime rule. It's just awful.
I think any real football fan does. Like it's better than it was when a field goal could end the game on the first possession. But I mean, who didn't want to see Patrick Mahomes come back on the field and try and drive his team down to either tie or win the game in that scenario?
Because of the money I had on the Patriots. But I understand what you're saying.
From an entertainment perspective, though, anybody watching that game just strictly for entertainment, I, having money on the Chiefs, actually did want to see Mahomes come back on the field, but that's a different story. But I think just it makes so much more sense to do it that way, where both teams get a chance, much like college. And maybe it's not exactly the college overtime rules, but it's got to be different than what it is, because it just doesn't make sense on any level.
Yeah. I mean, I get they don't want to play the whole nother quarter, and that it's sure. I mean, fine, it's fine. Then do the college rules. Start at the 35. That's what I like.
If you polled NFL players and asked them, would any of you mind if we played an overtime rules where each team is guaranteed a possession? I think ultimately those guys are going to say, well, if we've earned our way into overtime, I want to have our best chance to find an actual deserving winner, instead of just, they got the ball first, they won the coin toss, so they won the game. I get it, you can stop them if you're the Chiefs, right? But it just makes so much more sense doing it more like the college way. So,
or just go back to having it be a full quarter and let them play it out.
Absolutely,
let them play it out. That's fine by me. Anyways, it was tough for me because I felt like almost that whole game the Saints were the better team. And regardless of any of the play calls, regardless of how it turned out, I just feel let down when I don't feel like the better teams made the championship game.
Yeah, I agree. That was St. Louis, or that was New Orleans game. They were the better team, and unfortunately, the referees took it away from them.
Yeah. I agree, and I told y'all Brady was going to win it. I mean, honestly, there's some rumors floating around, possible retirement. We've talked about that on the show in like week 3 or 4 when we were talking about teams, and I said, you know what, if the Patriots pull another season together, why wouldn't they all just retire? What's Brady got left to prove if he wins a 7th ring? What's Belichick got left to prove? I mean, Brady's 41. Gronk is barely holding himself together with duct tape. Screw it. They need to win and just walk away. All of them.
Yeah, and this year it seemed like, they got into the playoffs and the national press wrote them off, and all the experts wrote them off, and that kind of put a chip on their shoulder. I mean, there was that interview with Tom Brady where he was like, "Well, I know everybody thinks we suck, but we're gonna go out there and play our best."
Right. Yeah, and I don't know, man. Like, I hate him. I hate him so much. I hate that whole team. I hate dynasties. I guess that maybe if it was different, if I was on a fan based side of a dynasty, but it's just boring. I just don't want to talk about the Patriots anymore, right? So I kind of hope they win, and then they all just walk away. I hope Bob Kraft sells the team. I hope everyone retires. I just want them to go away.
Yeah, I think there's probably a good chance Brady's going to walk away. I mean,
if they win.
If they win.
If they don't win, I have a hard time seeing him walking away because he was like, okay, I was there. I still got this in me. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. His arm's looking pretty noodle-ish.
Yeah. That's true. So, I mean, what are you thinking about this game? Last I looked here, New England was favored 2.5, and it was at like a 57.5 point spread. Or total, I mean. What are you thinking? What's your initial thoughts right now?
And my initial thoughts is you have to go with New England.
Yeah.
I don't think the Rams are. I don't think the Rams are better than the Saints, and I think the experience of Belichick and Brady have to win out.
Absolutely, and I think the other way, if the Saints would have got in, I'd have been in favor of the Saints.
I would have too. The Saints just look so hungry. They played so well all year.
Mm-hmm.
It was so disappointing.
It was really sad. It truly was. Did anybody do any good in their 2-game DFS or showdowns? Anybody play all right? I didn't put anything together. I don't think I even played it.
Yeah, I made like $40 on NFL, which covered my losses for PGA. So.
Right. Yeah, I cleaned house in Monkey Knife Fight, but yeah, I didn't play any DFS.
I don't want to talk about last week for DFS purposes whatsoever. I am regrouping. I'm moving forward, and we're gonna have a better week this week.
You don't even want to talk about golf last week, do you?
Tiger's back this week. Let's talk about Torrey Pines. Yeah, that should be all you need to hear.
Right, I like it.
How did we do
I'm not
picks?
Everybody got the Saints wrong. Everybody but me got the second game wrong. And I was the only one that picked the winner by the spread in both games. So everybody went 0-2, except for me, which I went 2-0. And so it went very well for me. I did not catch up though on the season. I'll tell you that, on the postseason. So I was 0-8 going in. So I needed that little boost to my confidence.
You were just saving your best for last.
That's right.
So I think that makes me 8-2.
Something like that. I'll post it up on the Facebook page here. My computer took a dump. Had to buy a new one today. So been spending all day transferring files. So
is the computer done pretty messy?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
I would imagine. Yeah.
Anybody having a tasty beverage tonight? I am still on my water kick. I'm sorry, I can't participate.
I'm still trying to finish off these Sam Adam Christmas ales.
I got nothing going tonight. Just on the water kick with you, Danger. That's all I got going.
Wow, we are a sad bunch.
Okay.
Especially when we're at a beer show.
Right, and Chris is sick tonight, so we're just a sad bunch. Oh well, what are you gonna do?
Hey, Lou's in the chat room.
Hey, how you doing, Lou? So. Anyways, all right, man. Well, we've been itching all day to talk Tiger Woods, my man. We're playing Torrey Pines. Tiger is a 7-time champion here, is he not?
In this event. And in addition to that, he won his last major in the 2008 U.S. Open here. So the guy likes the course.
He likes it. He likes it.
So really quick before we jump in here, let's take a moment to thank our sponsors.
Yeah, please
I'm
do.
a beerhound.com. I'm actually drinking my beer out of a I'm a beerhound.com glass right now.
Fantastic.
And we are on the Legends Sports Network at LennyMillickSports.com. Thank you all for joining us in the chat room. And into PGA now. So, really quick.
Adam, take your phone off vibrate, bro.
I can do that. How do you know it was me, though, is the question.
Because Mark and I are professionals, Adam. That's why.
Well, I guess I'm not quite there yet. I'll keep working on it.
Okay, so we have the Farmers Insurance Open. We stay in California for another week. This is at the famous Torrey Pines, which is an awesome course. Now, this is a weird setup. So they're going to play the North Course and then the South Course. Then there's going to be a cut. And then they're going to play the last 2 rounds on the South Course. So 3 of the 4 rounds are going to be on the South Course. So, Adam, you know this stuff more than me. What does that mean for us? What kind of player are we looking for?
Well, the problem with that, it's better than having 3 courses last week before the final round. I like having 2 better than 3, but it's still, you don't have shot lake data on the North Course from previous years, so it's hard to get an idea of who plays that course well. You can look at the scores, but I always like looking at strokes gained metrics a little bit more than that. The North Course plays much easier. There are some pretty strong trends I've been looking at this week that I'll be targeting.
Although I have noticed in some of the research that don't get too trapped by that because they have brought it closer over the last couple of years. From what I understand, it's only plays about a stroke and a half lighter, where it used to be 3 to 4 and sometimes 5 strokes lighter, but they've really tightened it up. So don't fall into the trap of just targeting those players playing the North Course day one.
Yep, there was a renovation of the North Course a few years ago in 2016. The course has definitely played much more difficult than it had previous to that. So I'm not looking at guys that are going to go super low on the North like maybe you had previous. With that being said, it's definitely the easier course. I'm still looking much more at players' history on the South Course. That's the more difficult course of the 2. That's where they're going to play 3 of the 4 rounds. And one of the main stats, I shouldn't say stats, but one of the main things I've seen in the history trends is that the last 8 winners of this event actually played on the South Course on Thursday, North Course on Friday. So I'm going to be targeting some waves that play South Course in the morning on Thursday. We'll get a little bit more into that here in a little bit. But, yeah, it's a par 72, so there's 4 par 5s. It's almost 7,700 yards, so it's a very long course, even by PGA Tour standards.
So bring on the Bombers.
Bring on the Bombers, yes, and guys that play specifically certain types of holes very well. So we'll talk a little more about that and who I'm targeting and why. But everything has got to be weighted more heavily towards the South Course, of course. But I like guys that are finishing on kind of the cut day, where you have those cut sweats going on Friday. I like guys that are finishing those last 9 holes during a cut sweat on a course that's more easy to make birdies on that North Course. So I will be targeting some for that. But overall, guys that gain strokes off the tee, not just Bombers, but guys that really drive it well, that are going to be hitting out of the fairways because the rough is a little more penal here.
I understand it's been raining all week, so it's going to be nasty if you get off into the rough. So you want to keep those driving accuracy guys in mind. Yeah,
I mean, you definitely want guys that are going to be able to avoid that lush, thick rough since the rain's been coming pretty hard. But also, I like guys that if they do miss a fairway, they're not going to miss it big. Guys that have a lot of good drive, a high good drive percentage. That are going to be in good position, even if they're off the fairway. If you're in the rough with a sand wedge in your hand, you're better off in a lot of cases than being in the fairway with a 7-iron. So long driving guys, but guys that can gain strokes off the tee are the guys that I'm targeting this week.
So how has Tiger been playing, though, in his recent form? Has he been straight off the box? Because I know he struggled with that.
He doesn't really have recent form that we know of. I trust that he's been grinding it out, and you will have a hard time finding a bigger Tiger Woods fan than myself. So it's always painful for me to try and fade Mr. Woods. But the last time he played was at his own event, the Hero World Challenge, back in November. So this is usually the event that he kicks off his competitive season with. But with him having, full capabilities of practicing the way that he wants to, I trust he's been grinding it out. I've seen some Instagram videos and stuff that his swing's looking pretty good, and I'm a sucker for Tiger, so I will probably be playing quite a bit of him this week.
See, for me, it's probably going to be a heavy fade. I was listening to a few podcasts, doing a little reading, and they pretty much pegged him to be the highest owned player in most contests, especially the lower limits that I play. So I might just enjoy watching him, but not put some money on him.
Yeah, that's the tough part with Tiger. I want to roster him, but if I'm going to have to roster him at 30% or higher to get any kind of leverage ownership-wise on the field, that might be a tough pill to swallow for me.
Yeah, when I was listening to the guys recommended, if you're playing an expert level and higher stakes stuff, that he might be lesser owned. But if you're playing any of the low, $1, $6, $5, $10 kind of things, that you're going to see just a lot of people picking them because they want to watch him, they want to root for him, so they're going to put him on the team.
And he's also the fourth highest salary on DraftKings.
Yeah, I sent you an initial lineup earlier today, and I don't know that I'm touching anybody in the 10K myself, but we'll get into that.
That could be an interesting strategy for you, Danger.
I think I'm going to stay away from all those guys and play a little bit more middle round. So they were super excited. I was listening to a podcast on my drive home today, and they were just super excited about Jon Rahm, and they got me kind of believing here. If I'm going to play a 10K guy, he is number one. He's the highest, most expensive player on the week. But they actually think that will drive ownership down, and they think that he should be the highest owned guy. What are you thinking about Mr. Rahm this week?
It's hard not to like Rahm. He won here 2 years ago. He's coming in with very good form, top 10s in his first two events of the season. It's tough to get away from him. It's all going to be based on ownership for me. If I'm able to look at FanShare Sports tonight, see that he's going to be, up around that 20% mark. You don't typically see guys in the higher end get over that 20% mark unless they're just mispriced and it's a major and you've got guys that shouldn't be that are priced higher than somebody like the 10K mark. But I love everything about Rahm's game and the way it's lining up this week. I'm probably, if I had to pick right now, I'm probably going to go heavy on the ownership of Rahm because I agree with what you were saying, Danger. I think that high price, people not being familiar with him at the top, they might look at Rory McIlroy and Justin Rose and say, or Tiger just below that and say, well, these guys, they're lower price. I'll take my discount and go with it.
Sure.
And then you got Jason Day, who's a two-time winner, just below that at 10-1. So if that's the case, if he's going to be anywhere 15% or lower, I'm going to load up at 30% in my lineups in the 20 max entries that I do, and take my odds that he has a big week and finishes top three.
Yeah, I mean, I like him a lot, and you're going to probably see people still flock to Justin Rose because he's still number one player in the world, but he did just go through a club change, although it looked like he played all right. He finished like 30th, 32nd, somewhere like that. I mean, he didn't look awful with his new clubs.
No, I was actually somewhat impressed by the way he was able to stay pretty consistent day to day. But a guy like that, given that he's got 1 week under his belt with the new equipment, I still think this course is very demanding, both off the tee and the fact that he's got a new driver in play and didn't drive it particularly great by his standards last week. Probably going to stay away from Mr. Rose this week and let the other guys play him, even though, he might be a guy that goes a little low owned with those guys just above him and just below him, soaking up some of that ownership. But it's still a fade for me on Justin Rose, even though he's got a decent course history, 2 top 10s the last couple of years here. I'm still staying away from Rose and taking my chances with other guys in this top end price range here.
So going down my list here, the guys that I was going to ask you about, what about my man Leishman?
I like Leishman this week. Yeah, Leishman's coming in with really good form. His iron play is usually his strength when he's playing well. We've talked about how he's a pretty good wind player. He played well in Hawaii. This is a coastal course, so they're going to have a pretty good amount of wind exposure. if the winds do come up, and that's something that can really change day to day. Obviously, we know being in Michigan how much weather can change at the drop of a hat, and that's the same way it is on the West Coast. I haven't seen particularly high winds forecasted for this week, but Leishman's a guy whose form is really good. He's always a guy, if he gets that putter hot, he's always been a decent putter on POA greens, which they're going to be on this week. I have a hard time talking you away from him. The only thing I don't like is that he's a little higher priced than I would like to see him. And there's some guys down below that we'll talk about, down below his price point at 9.7 on DraftKings that I like a little bit more. I like their upside a little bit more. And, I wouldn't be locking Leishman into my cash game lineups. And if he's going to be higher owned in tourneys, I will probably be full fading him.
Sure.
But I definitely can see the merit behind him as a strong play up here at the top. Is that where you're thinking about starting your lineups?
Yeah, I'm kind of starting in that range there. Another guy I like right there is Tony Finau. Going back and looking at what he's done, he's been a little quiet to start the season, hasn't done much, but I believe he's actually won the last two that he came out for. And but he also is he not? He's paired up with Tiger, is he not?
He is paired with Tiger. Yeah, Finau has not won the last couple events.
Where did I see that? Maybe it was last year, sometime I was reading. But I did see he was paired with Tiger. And are you worried about that? Do you think Tiger coming back to Torrey Pines and the crowds is going to bug a guy like Finau?
I think it certainly could. It's something you have to look at. I mean, he's a guy who's really just come onto the scene the last few years here. He's full of talent. I mean, this course fits him very well because he's a guy who can gain a ton of strokes off the tee. He's just a bomber, and he's gotten really accurate the last couple of years for his distance. So as far as statistically, I don't mind where he's at. He's going to be very high owned. Everyone's expecting huge things out of him this year. He contended last year and faded a little bit on Sunday, finished sixth, finished fourth the year before. He's just a guy that feels like he's ready to break through and take that next step to becoming a solid top 6 or 8 player in the world. But I do think that the Tiger thing, I mean, the crowds are huge. They make a lot of noise. If Tiger holds out like a 6-footer and Finau's got a 4-footer just after him, those crowds are running to the next hole as soon as Tiger holds out. So it is a real concern for me. It's not usually something I worry about as much with veterans and guys who have played in those situations before. But with Finau being a relatively new player as far as rising to this level on tour and him being paired with him the first couple of days, those are going to be by far the biggest crowds on the first 2 rounds. So that does concern me a little bit. He's another guy. If the ownership's looking like it's up anywhere near 20%, what I'll probably do is play him in cash because I'll be afraid of getting burned by him having a good week and having no exposure. So I'd probably play him in cash, fade him in tournaments if he's going to be high owned.
So what about combining my first 2 weeks and taking a couple of Cams and a couple of Charlies? What do you think about that? What do you think about taking maybe Charles Howell and pairing him with Cam Champ?
I don't hate that idea. Charles Howell's got a ridiculously good. This is the time of year if you're gonna target Charles Howell, like this is the time to do it. He's great on the West Coast. That's where he's made his money over the years. But 9,100 for him, at least in tourneys, is a little bit too rich for my blood. I think there are guys right around him that I like quite a bit more. But Cam Champ is a guy who his price has dropped a little bit. He doesn't have that history here. So it's hard to look at it and say, he's going to play well here. But if a course is going to set up well for Cam Champ, it's a course where, gaining strokes off the tee, being a bomber, 7,700-yard course where you can score on the par 5s and long par 4s. I mean, that's right up his alley. So skill set wise, I like Cam Champ a lot this week. And if he's looking like he's even relatively low owned, that's a guy I'll be loading up on, even trying to double or triple the field's ownership on him.
When it comes to Cam Champ, one of the names that was mentioned along with him with the skill set, but tough to trust though, but has the same kind of similar game as Keegan Bradley.
Keegan Bradley's always hard to trust. He's such a great.
When he's on, he's a straight shooter when he's on.
Yeah, and this is the type of layout that I like to target him on because he does gain a ton of strokes off the tee and his approach game is usually very good. And with the grass that these greens are, with POA greens, they're a little bumpier, they're a little grainy, and it kind of negates a little bit of that edge that your truly elite putters typically have over the field. So this is the type of layout that I like to target him on, where ball striking is really at a premium, and even your mediocre to poor putters, which I would categorize him as, have a chance to really kind of level with the rest of the field that are better putters and have a pretty good time on these bumpier greens that don't require quite as much of a premium skill set with the putting. So I like Keegan this week, and I don't think he's going to be that highly owned. I think people will look at him with some of the guys around him, like an Abraham Answer, who's been on fire. Snedeker's won here before, had a top 10. Champ's kind of a hot new name. And then you got Matsuyama, who's priced just below him at 8K, that's a world-class player there. That's really, I don't know, in this field, he's pretty mispriced as far as I'm concerned.
So that's somebody that I pointed out in our chat earlier that you said that you just didn't know if you could get away from because of the pricing on him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy not even 2 years ago, about 18 months ago, he was kind of knocking on the door to becoming one of the top 4 or 5 players in the world. He had won a WGC event. He contended at the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow that Justin Thomas ultimately won. But Matsuyama's a guy where if he's on, I mean, nobody would be shocked if he finished top 3 this week at any course. There's no course that doesn't fit Matsuyama. His game is just all around really good. It's just a matter of whether he can make some putts or not.
Yeah, and then the other price that I thought still kind of was a little strange was Jordan Spieth coming in at $8,900. According to my research, aka listening to a show today, he hasn't been below $9,000 since 2014 on DraftKings.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong stat. That's when he was very first on tour before he was even considered one of the elites. So
I mean, it's one of those things that he hasn't been playing great. You know, it's not necessarily a good weekend for him. But at what point do you just have to take the former world number 1 and major champion because they've priced him so low?
Not this week.
Not this week. Still not interested in him. Huh?
I still have interest in Spieth long term for the rest of the year, but I think the course really has to fit him well. There's a reason he hasn't played here the last 3 years. I think he realizes that this is a course setup that really doesn't suit him well because he's not a particularly long hitter or a very straight driver. So he's a lot better at your courses that they're a little bit shorter. They allow him to gain some strokes on the approach game and into the greens, and he's never putted well on POA-style greens. So I think he's going to be a full fade for me. And if those guys who take him at 10% or slightly lower beat me because of that, then that's a pill I'm willing to swallow because nothing leads me to want to play Jordan Spieth other than that 89. It's almost like when you're looking on Vegas lines and you go, why are the odds this way? It's like a sucker bet, right? They're trying to pull you in to get money even on either side. And I am not going to take the bait and play Spieth this week. I just can't do it. If he burns me, so be it. I'm a Spieth fan. I like him long term, just not on this kind of course.
Sure.
Yeah, let me jump in here before Danger takes all the players.
Yes. Yes.
I do like Keegan Bradley. My initial lineup does have him in it, and one of the stats I looked at is 5th last year, 4th the year before. So 2 top 10s in the last 2 years. But the other guy I was looking at was J.B. Holmes. So 3 top 10s out of the last 4 years. 7,900. He's a good mid-range price. How do you feel about him this week?
I personally won't have any J.B. Holmes this week. He's got good course history. We just haven't seen enough out of him recently, and he's a guy who could just as easily make a couple double bogeys on Thursday and pack it in as he could top 10. So I'm going to take my chances. I think he's a guy who's going to be fairly high owned because he does have such a great course history here. And he was contending until the very last hole last year and got some pretty bad notoriety because he took forever on his second shot on the par 5 18th at the South Course. And then instead of taking a 3-wood to give himself a chance at eagle to get into the playoff, he lays up into the rough and basically he pissed off Alex Noren pretty good because Noren was ready to hit his second shot. He was ready to try and win this thing outright with a birdie. And J.B. Holmes really just was incredibly deliberate. And I don't know, maybe I have a little bit of salty taste in my mouth because of that. But I will not be playing J.B. Holmes this week. I think there's other guys that line up better statistically. And I'll take my chances that he's going to finish outside the top 25 and not pay off his salary. One guy I do like is somebody we talked about last week a little bit too. I'm going to take a close look at his ownership, but Sung Jae Im. He continued his solid play last week. The only thing that scares me a little bit is he doesn't have course history here, and I don't know how he putts, particularly on these types of greens. And one corollary in the past has been strokes gained putting. That's not typically one that you see correlate as highly as it does this week. You know, you're always going to have guys that finish up top, they probably putted well, but it's weighted even more heavily on this particular event. So that's the only thing that scares me is lack of course history, not knowing how he plays on these types of greens. But the rest of his stats line up really well. So I'm going to look at ownership, and if he's looking relatively low owned, I may load up on him. And if not, there's a pivot play right above him that I actually like quite a bit too. But I'm looking at guys to pivot from JB around him and let the higher ownership guys take their chances on him, because he's a pretty high risk guy. He could just as easily miss the cut as he could finish top 10. Matsuyama, we talked about. He's extremely mispriced at 8K. He's probably a guy I'll play in my cash lineups because I see a very low likelihood he'll miss the cut. And then I like Grillo as well. I think I've heard a lot of talk on Abraham Answer, who's been playing really well. And I wouldn't be surprised if he played well again, but I think Grillo has just as good, if not a better chance to finish top 10 and kind of vault your lineups up to the top this week. So Grillo's got the skill set. He's a great ball striker, plays par fours really well from 450 to 500, which there are a lot of this week. So Grillo's a guy that I'm looking at playing pretty heavily. And I love that we have such a strong field, because there are so many leverage plays you can get when you start hearing guys being talked up based on, you know, their recent play or course history. You know, when I look at that, if someone's going to be twice his own, like Answer to Grillo is a good example. If Answer is going to be 20% and Grillo 10, I really look at that like, is Answer's chance to finish top 10 really twice as good as Emiliano Grillo's? The answer to that's definitely no. So I like looking at those kind of scenarios like that and trying to gain some leverage on the field with ownership.
So here's a guy I have a question for you. Great form, been kicking butt lately, but absolutely awful course history. Xander Schauffele.
Xander's a tough guy to get a read on. I mean, he's up in that range where I wouldn't be surprised if he came in lower owned than he should be. But you're right. I mean, he's missed the cut all 3 times he's played in this event. Finished outside the top 100 in his first 2 tries here, 2016, 2017. But
he's
he
on
also
fire.
seems like a guy. He also seems like a guy who may have turned the corner and might be on his way to being truly a top 5 player in the world.
I feel like there's a lot of people that are slaves to course history, and I feel like taking a guy who's really kind of in the swing of things right now with this such poor course history could be a nice way to take advantage of the field.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong there, especially with Xander's skill set. When you look at his skill set, it works really well with what should correlate with success on this course. So when the rest of the statistics line up, and it's a guy who's in such good form, who's really at this point he's such a different player than he was even a year ago. So you know, he's a guy I don't mind playing and taking my chances with. I haven't made a final decision yet whether I'm going to play Xander heavily or lay off him. A lot of that will depend on ownership too, but his skill set makes sense. And what you're saying, Danger, makes a lot of sense. I see a lot of guys that you're right. They're such slaves to course history that when you get these certain instances where most people are going to go, Xander hasn't played well here in the past. Well, that's fine, but that doesn't mean he's not a guy who could still top 5 very easily and outperform the guys that are just above or just below him. So I'm going to take a close look at ownership and see what I want to do with Xander. But he's a hard guy for me to figure out because he really hasn't played since the win in week 1. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got my notes mixed up. That's the guy who has technically won his last 2 matches, but has terrible history.
Correct. Yeah, he won the Century Tournament of Champions, and he won over in China. Actually beat Finau in a playoff. So that's maybe what your mix up was there. Because he overtook Finau. He had another late charge similar to what he did at the Century Tournament of Champions, where he came back from several strokes back on the back 9 and just stormed out into a playoff and then beat Finau.
You see, I think you've got me convinced to take this guy. I mean, he's high on his own abilities right now, more than he's ever been, and he's ready to come out here and prove course history wrong.
I can't talk you off of him. There's definitely something to be said for having that confidence, that swagger, and just believing that you're going to go out there and be better than the rest of these guys. And he's got the last 8 rounds he's played competitively, no one's beat him, right? Over the course of those 2 events. So there's a lot to be said for that confidence in golf. There's certain guys that have all the reason in the world to be as confident, but there's that X factor. Oh my God, I didn't even mean to do that. But the X factor could be his confidence for Mr. Xander Schauffele. So we want to talk about a couple other guys in the 9K and up range that I like.
Mark, what other guys you got you wanted to ask?
No, go for it. That's good. You guys are hitting on everybody I had.
Sorry, I spent all day doing Windows updates listening to golf podcasts. So.
No, that's cool.
Not like the worst way to spend a day. So one guy I like a lot that's really I think going overlooked this week, has a great skill set for this event, is Mr. Gary Woodland. I think he disappointed a lot of people with his Sony Open finish the week after getting overtaken by Mr. X in that Century Tournament of Champions. And the Sony Open doesn't really fit his skill set as well. There's only 2 par 5s, a lot of short par 4s. It's more for those plotters, for Kuchar types like we saw win that event. So I think Woodland's a guy who could really pop this week. I would not be surprised at all if he was one of the top guys with DraftKings scoring at the end of the week, because he can really get it rolling when he's on fire. And he's top 20 the last 3 years at this event. His form is even better. He's a guy that I expect. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see that redemption story from a few weeks ago where he got, kind of overtaken by a crazy performance, did nothing wrong, shot 5 under, 6 under on Sunday, and just got beat by a better performance, like a, world-class, once-in-a-season type performance on Sunday by Schauffele. I think Woodland's a great play. He lines up really well, drives it very well off the tee. He's been putting much better so far this year, so he's a guy that I like, and I think Howell above him because of his course history. I don't know if Spieth's going to be very high on, but there's some guys around him that are going to soak up some ownership, and that might lead me right to Mr. Woodland.
Do you like Woodland better than Leishman?
For the price and considering what I expect the ownership to be, yes. Doesn't mean I don't like Leishman, but I'm hearing him talked up a lot this week on pretty much every podcast and seeing him written up in a lot of these articles. I think Woodland has every bit the chance, if not a greater chance, to top 3 this week and send your lineups to the top of the leaderboard as compared to Leishman.
I like it.
Yeah, the one $9,000 player I was looking at, but I have a feeling he's going to be way too owned, so I might have to fade him, is Tony Finau.
Yeah, Finau we talked about. I love his game and his skill set, but playing with Tiger, this is his first event of the year. I'm going to be staying off of him, I think, for the most part. I'll probably play him in cash just as like a block so I don't get totally boned if he goes off and wins this thing, which wouldn't shock me. But I think, I don't know if you guys have any ownership projections pulled up. I can pull them up here in a second, but I think Finau is going to be 20% owned, probably the highest of all these guys, 9K and above, just because you get a little bit of a discount. People are going to look at that and say, he's still a guy who has a good chance to win, great course history.
Yeah.
Skill set fits this course, but he's a guy that I'm going to be probably fading in tournaments, mainly because of the Tiger factor, and it's his first event of the year. I think he might not quite be as sharp as he needs to be for this event. Totally speculation on that part, though. If he comes out and shoots 64 tomorrow and goes out and wins, I wouldn't be shocked. Mm-hmm. It's a very indigestion-inducing fade for me on him in tournaments.
So basically, we've gone through this 8K range, 9K and below, and you take out Jordan Spieth, probably can get rid of Cameron Smith there. But there's a lot of guys we like in here. Cameron Champ, Keegan Bradley, if you want to take a GPP shot. Abraham Answer, you said you liked Grillo. Matsuyama, $8,000. I mean, that 8K range is so chock full of players. I don't know that I can do my typical stars and scrubs. I think I might just have to do a balanced lineup.
Yeah, with the depth of this field, I like the balanced lineup a lot. I'm probably going to have, if I'm looking at how I'm going to distribute my ownership in my 20 max entries, I don't typically play the 150 max unless it's like a quarter arcade type thing, but I'm probably going to go heavy on a couple guys up top. Maybe do 25% of my lineups with Rahm, 25% with, maybe a McIlroy or a Tiger if I'm wearing my Sunday red, which I might be tonight when I'm in bed. But other than that, I think I'm going to distribute at least half of my lineups that start below that 10K mark, because I'm full fade on Jason Day this week. I think you're going to see a lot of ownership on Finau there, so I think starting lineups with a couple of these guys that might be a little bit lower owned in that high 8K, low 9K range makes a lot of sense, and it's really going to help differentiate your lineups.
What about even taking another shot on Mr. Cantlay?
I do like Cantlay this week. I think he was very high, and I'm still not happy with him with the way he finished on Sunday last week. But I do think that's, he was high owned. He was, I think, the third highest priced guy last week, who I wrote up and liked a lot last week. But he's got a skill set that really should fit this course well. He's only played here once in this event, and didn't finish inside the top 50, but he can really get hot with the putter. He's a California guy. I like Cantlay a lot this week, especially because I think he's going to be a little low owned, because he burned some people last week on Sunday, that myself included, that were cashing heading into the day, and then he kind of just faded on Sunday, and couldn't get it done. So I'm leaning towards him as a leverage play, over some of the guys near him in price, like Charles Howell and Fowler and those guys.
All right, well, let's get low. Where's your 7K range, guys?
Get low. So I wanted to go through a few of the guys that I targeted based on playing the South Course on Thursday. The last 8 years, as we mentioned, the winner of this event has come from a Thursday tee time on the South Course. So a few of the guys that I like a lot down in that range. Keith Mitchell had a really good Sony Open, faded on Sunday, but I'm still very high on Keith Mitchell. He is down in the low 7Ks, I believe. Another guy that I like is Brendan Steele. He's down at 7,100. Has a pretty solid course history here. Top 30s his last 2 years. Steele shook some of the rust, or got some of the rust off last week in his first event. Didn't play particularly well by his standards of that event, but I think people are going to be off him because he kind of underperformed at an event that he normally plays very well. Has great course history at, and I'm looking at that as, he had a pretty rough putting week last week. Other stats were pretty good. He's normally a guy that gains a lot of strokes off the tee, so I'm going to Steele at 7,100 for sure, especially in cash games. I think he's a pretty solid play to make the cut and finish pretty high. I also like Kevin Tway. Tway's a guy who has the skill set for this course. He's at 7,200, long driver, but his iron play and his putting has been a lot better here in his recent events. Anybody you guys have questions on in that mid to low, or just the 7K range in general?
Oh, yes. I know you want to tell me about your boy Luke List, your love-hate relationship.
Ugh. I refuse to play him just because of last week.
There you go. That's why you got to get the leverage. You got to ride List while you can. Skill set wise, like this course, just like a Keegan Bradley or the guys that are phenomenal ball strikers and not great putters, or Tony Finau's in that same category. List is a guy that I'm going back to this week. For one, because I'm a complete sucker for Luke List. I played him last week, and I have 2 one-and-done entries in this giant Gups Corner. I think there's like 3,500 entries in it. It's just huge. But I played him last week as one of my one-and-done entries. Cantlay was the other, and List missed the cut and absolutely burned me. And I'm like, God, I'm never playing you again. And then I start looking at the stats this week, and I'm like, oh, God, List looks really good. So I'll be going back to him. Yeah,
I thought that you might. Aaron Wise is getting a little talk up in this.
Yeah. Wise is a guy whose game does make a lot of sense for this course. He gains a ton of strokes off the tee. He's a West Coast guy. He's a guy that I will definitely be playing this week. I think coming off of last week where he missed the cut at an event that really didn't fit his skill set all that well, he's come out of the gates pretty slow, but I'm very high in his prospects for the year, as you guys have probably gathered throughout the early weeks here of the season. I'm going right back to Wise. I think he's going to be very low owned. There's a lot of guys around him that should soak up a lot of ownership. So I'm going back to Aaron Wise, not just because his initials are AW and that's the best initials in the world, but I think he's got great potential at this course to finish top 10. That wouldn't shock me at all.
How about the Stanley Steamer?
Stanley Steamer.
Course history's good here.
Course history's good. He almost broke through for his first ever victory years ago and spun it back off the green into the water on the par 5 18th and just broke. I've always been a fan of his, so it was tough to watch. But he came back the very next week and actually won. I think it was Phoenix that year. the very next week and actually won, which was impressive. I like his ball striking stats. I think because there's so much value and the field is so strong, I think you can get guys that are a lot higher probability to have an elite finish. Because Stanley hasn't shown. I mean, he's shown very good consistency, and he's good for kind of that 15th to 30th range fairly often. But I'm looking for upside this week. I think the field's so strong, you're going to have guys in that 7K range that really pop and finish top 5 for you. So
speaking
Stanley's
of that, looking at my lineup, I got 7,300 left for my last guy. So let's focus on the 7,300 and below.
But Stanley's probably going to be a guy playing cash fade in tournaments because I think he will be high owned. His skill set makes sense.
So here's the guys that I'm kind of looking at.
You have so far. Let's look at your projected ownership on those guys.
So here's what I'm looking at 73 or below. I'm looking at guys like J.J. Spawn, like Harris English. I'm looking at Kevin Tway. I'm looking at your boy Mitchell. I got one spot, 7,300 left. Who's your go-to guy?
7,300 or below.
Who Johnny Vegas down at 69?
Nah, no Vegas this week.
I just like his name. It makes me.
Who are the other 5? Yeah, I didn't mind Vegas last week.
All right. So the last guys that I really know anything about that I was reading about today, the last group here is Keith Mitchell at 7,000, Anders Albertson at 7,000, Brendan Steele at 71, and a guy like Kevin Tway at 72, and probably. Let's see. The only other guys that I had in my notes were Spawn and Harris English.
So are the rest of the guys in your lineup, do you think they're guys that are going to be high owned? You're looking for a guy with a lot of upside that'll be lower owned, or do you want someone who's safe and likely to make the cut?
I'm thinking I need a guy to make the cut.
Okay.
I want a guy that's going to make the cut. Because I think all my other guys are going to make the cut, and I want 6 of 6 through.
Okay. What kind of entries are you putting this into? What kind of tourneys?
Oh, it'll be a single entry.
Okay. Yeah, go with that. I like Brendan Steele a lot for that particular spot in your lineup.
I dig it.
Yeah, I think the guy who has the most upside for me, 7,300 or below. I do like Kevin Tway a lot, but one guy that's flying very much under the radar because he hasn't played very well to start the year is Joaquin Niemann. I think that kid's going to be a stud. He's right about the same age as Cam Champ. Just kind of came on the scene last year. He's got a pretty great story too. I think he's going to be a guy who's a mainstay on the tour for years and years to come. But not seeing much on him this week. I think his skill set fits pretty well. He's a great iron player. Really can get hot with the putter when he's on. Had some top finishes last year. A couple top 10s late in the year. So he's a guy that I'll probably have 10% exposure to, knowing that I'll probably be overweight on the field.
Anybody below 7K you have any interest for in case we need to save that much money?
Yeah, absolutely. I like Trey Mullinax at 6.4, going way downtown. I think he's got the skill set too. He's a guy that came out of the web.com crop class the same year that Xander did, and he's a guy that got talked up a lot. He's a bomber, gains a lot of strokes off the tee. Had a middling finish here 2 years ago with a 49th place finish. Missed the cut last year. But I think he's a guy I wouldn't be surprised to have a really solid year and find himself in the running towards the end of the year. So Mullinax is one guy at 6,400 I'm looking at. Pretty decent all-around game, but definitely gains a lot of strokes off the tee. He's also a guy that's starting in the morning on the South course, which is one thing I'm looking to target, as does Mr. Wise. And other than that, below...
how about Jose de Jesus Rodriguez?
Oh, man.
I've been hearing he's been hot.
He's a very hot story on the tour right now. Like the story of how he made his way from being like an illegal immigrant from Mexico to now being a fully exempt player on the PGA Tour is pretty phenomenal. I think golf.com did the story here the last couple of weeks. So definitely go out and read that because it's pretty incredible. It's a very good story of perseverance, but not a guy that I'm looking at very closely this week. Another guy I like is Brandon Harkins. Harkins is a bomber. He tends to play well on these longer courses, long par fours, reachable par fives. He finished 12th last year, and I think he's going to fly under the radar a little bit. You don't usually see a lot of guys like super low price that are extremely high owned. Another guy that's getting a lot of buzz, the Boz is getting a lot of buzz. Dominic Bazzelli is coming in with 2 really clutch finishes. He was basically on the brink of losing his tour card if he didn't have a solid finish at the Sony Open 2 weeks ago, and came through with, I believe it was a top 5 finish, like just played out of his mind on the weekend. So he's riding some pretty crazy momentum. It's like you're down to your last $20, and then you hit on black on the roulette table, and then you just go parlay that into winning $500 on the blackjack table, and now you're playing with house money. So Bazzelli's a guy that's coming off 2 straight really good finishes at 6,900, which is also a very nice price for him. And I think that's about it for under 7K for me.
You don't want to take another run at Kramer Highcack?
I don't think so.
Although, if we would have played him as much as we made fun of him last week, we all would have made money.
Now, just because I like his name, what about Ali Schneiderjans?
Ollie's he's so hard to figure out. It's very windy. I'm going to go back to the same thing from a couple weeks ago. It's very windy, and he does not wear a hat. So I think his hair is going to be very much in his eyes. Unless he got a haircut this week, and that's not a problem anymore. But
this is the no hat guy.
Yeah, long hair, no hat, not good on a windy course. No, but in all seriousness, he's been struggling a lot. He's a guy 2 seasons ago, coming into last year, people were really expecting him to make a jump forward, and he just hasn't done it. He's been really struggling. So, not a guy that I can get on. One last low price bomb that I can get behind at very least for cash games is kind of a filler on that low end. If you're looking for a high price guy in your cash games, is Rory Sabatini. A couple good finishes here the last couple years. He's finished top 20 the last 2 seasons. He's one of those guys that just grinds it out. I'd be surprised if he missed the cut. Pretty good player from 450 to 500 yard par fours, which there are a lot of this week. So that's a guy that I would lean towards a little bit down there if you're looking for one guy to fill out your cash lineup.
I dig it, man. I run out of questions.
Overall, though, the Lord is back. Tiger Woods is back. We can all watch Tiger this week. Golf is always better when he's there. I've been fired up the last couple of months. But this is it, man. This is like the NBA where you go after Christmas is when the real season starts. This is it for golf too. Tiger's back. Torrey Pines. Let's roll. It's going to be awesome.
I dig it, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
I like it. Mark, why don't you thank our sponsors again?
All right. You're listening to Draught For Upside. We're sponsored by I'mABeerHound.com, and we're on the Legends Sports Network, and it's at LennyMelnickSports.com. Yeah, where do we want to go from here?
Oh, geez, man. I blew all my energy there talking golf with Adam. That was intense.
I'm spent.
That was pretty good, though. 45 minutes on PGA.
I need a beer.
We're breaking LennyMelnick.com records of golf talk, that's for sure.
Yeah.
If anybody hasn't been to the site before, they are 98.9% baseball. So.
And then here we are.
So I'm happy to provide it.
That's right. So, did you get into the golf tournament on our DraftKings League?
I am.
Yeah. You asking me that question? Yeah, of course.
I'm asking both of you guys.
Yeah, I'm in.
Oh, actually, I know what we need to do.
What's that?
Monkey knife fight.
Ooh, monkey knife fight.
Oh, that's right. Let's do it.
Gotta do the monkey knife fight.
Cleaned up. What do you think, Lenny? You like prop bet radio?
Who doesn't? Come on.
That's right. Let's see. Who is it? It's who are the guys in the morning that on Sirius Radio? They're doing prop bet radio now. I think Jim Bowden and somebody else out. I don't know. I can't remember who it is. It's the guy from Florida.
I haven't listened to it.
I haven't listened to it yet. Yeah, but yeah, they're doing prop bet radio in the mornings in Sirius XM. So
that's awesome.
It's catching on, boys. It's catching on. We got a thing here. Oh, it's Craig Mish. Yes,
Monkey
Craig Mish,
fight
like
coming
you said.
along. Seems like it's getting more. Oh, there you go, Craig Mish. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Lenny. Remember on Facebook there was that fake Craig Mish years ago? That was hilarious. That was quite funny. I don't know if anybody saw that, but that was making the rounds. It was pretty incredibly funny. So.
Is Craig Mish that big that he'd have like people that were posing as him on social media?
I guess so. That was pretty funny. I was enjoying it. So.
News to me.
Yeah, it was highly entertaining. But anyways, yes, monkey knife fight.
All right.
So
Let's start
I
off
did
with...
not do well in the golf, and I blame you for that, Adam. Completely and totally blame you for that.
Hey, as much as you lost, I promise I lost more. So.
But I won everything back and then some on NFL. I went undefeated in monkey knife fight NFL. So.
Wow,
that's
nice.
unreal.
It was good. Now let's be real. I only do the 3 out of 4 games or the 2 out of 3 games. Yeah.
That's still good.
So impressive.
Yeah,
That's
I
fun.
always throw in $1 $2 5 out of 5 just in case.
Right. Just in
And
case.
it's a 10x payout if I can just hit it.
Right.
I got 4 out of 5 last week.
I like it. I dig it.
So let's see here. Our first one. Rapid fire 2 out of 2. More birdies or better, Justin Rose or Tony Finau? And is that how you say his name, Finau?
Finau.
Finau is getting half a stroke. Well, he's a plus 0.5, so he's losing a stroke, half a stroke.
Yeah, even though what we talked about earlier with worrying about him with Tiger and his pairing, I'm still going Finau on that all day.
Over Rose.
Finau over Rosie, absolutely.
And then less total strokes, Ricky Fowler or Tiger Woods?
Got to go Tiger there. This course, got to.
More birdies too for Tiger over Fowler.
That might be a different story. Like Fowler's more prone to the big numbers, but he also makes a ton of birdies. So if you're going more birdies, I'd actually go Fowler, and lower score, I'd go Tiger. Tiger's more likely to go 15 pars, 3 birdies to shoot 3 under, and Fowler could shoot, 1 under with 6 birdies, a double, and 3 bogeys.
Right on.
All right, your turn to pick, Danger.
All right, here we go. Let's find a good one. Let's find a dangerific one.
Got the
Hold
eagle eye.
I do like the eagle eye. Yeah, no chance. Let's see.
That eagle one last week we did with 3 players to make an eagle in round 1.
That was fun.
That's so ridiculous. I don't know. Anybody who hit that prop bet, please let me know, because you're either extremely lucky or a genius.
Well, it wasn't me. I played it, but
Yeah.
it wasn't me. All right, I'm gonna do the rapid fire. We only need to get 3 out of 4 right. I like these because I like having that little breathing room. Less total strokes. Justin Rose, Tony Finau. Justin Rose, getting plus 0.5.
Really? Jeez. So Finau was plus 0.5 for more birdies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But he's actually technically he's an underdog to beat. Huh. I think they're both playing the same course. I would go Rose on that one.
All right, right on. All right, we got the same question. More par or better, Ricky Fowler or Tiger Woods? Tiger Woods getting a plus 5.
More holes with par or better?
Correct.
Yeah, give me Tiger.
What? I'm sorry. What did we do on the first one? Was it
Rose.
Rose? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. More birdie or better. I'm having a strong feeling on this one. Rory versus Woodland. I think you like this Woodland guy quite a bit.
I do, but not over Rory in that scenario.
No, you like Rory for more birdies?
Yeah, Rory's always likely to make 5-6 birdies in a round. I'll take him all day over Woodland.
Nice.
Rory's also over 2,000 higher in price on DraftKings than Woodland.
Right, that's true. More par or better, Cantlay versus Harold Varner.
Oh, Cantlay. Cantlay's got to be minus 0.5 on that one.
He is, correct.
Mm-hmm. I'll take
All
Cantlay.
right. I dig it, yeah. All right, that's all I'm putting in the golf on here, so I'm good.
All righty.
I'm going to pick one more.
Go ahead, fire away.
Hold on. Make sure that one's in.
By the way, side note on last week's event, the fact that Adam Long won that freaking thing just tells you how difficult golf is to predict.
Right.
He's gonna face down like Phil Mickelson and Adam Hadwin, who's got great course history and is a PGA Tour winner, and just hit that shot on 18 and then drain the putt to beat them both by one.
Mm-hmm.
Like they panned to Mickelson, and he's like, "Wow," which was great because I'm not a big lefty fan, as you guys may or may not know. But.
Right.
No, I didn't know that.
While Mark's looking for his next one, I was just going to look at my ours from last week. You did the rapid fire 5 out of 5 for us. And you picked Rahm over Rose for pars, which was correct. You picked Wise over Johnson for birdies, which was correct. You picked Answer over Berger to less strokes, which was correct. You picked Howell versus Neiman to go less strokes, which was correct. And the only one we missed was you picked Putnam versus Highcock.
Highcock burned us?
Highcock burned us.
Yep. So we're going to go right back to it today.
Which is pretty funny.
The
And the three guys we picked,
5
just for the record, the three guys we picked to have over 2.5 eagles all had 0 eagles. So,
like I said, that's the most ridiculous prop bet I've ever heard. So I don't feel bad about that one at all. And I think I said that when Chris was talking about it. I'm like, really? In one round? Okay.
you did.
All right, so this week's rapid fire 5 out of 5. Most of these we've already predicted, so we'll just run through them really quick. More par or better, Justin Rose or Finau?
Rosie.
Less total strokes, Ricky Fowler or Tiger Woods?
Tiger.
More birdie or better, Rory or Woodland? You said Rory?
Of course, yeah, for sure.
More birdie or better, Xander or Rahm? And Rahm is a plus 0.5.
He's a plus 0.5?
Yep.
Oh, my. Can you give me 18 seconds to look at that real quick?
Yeah.
Wait, 8 seconds.
That's fine.
I want to make sure they're both playing the same course. Rahm is on the north course.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting for a prop bet, wouldn't it?
Yes, they would. We might be able to gain a little edge on that. Xander's playing the south course. I'll go Rahm all day on that one. Rahm's teeing off 9:30 in the morning on the north course. He's going to light that baby up.
And more par or better, Cantley or Varner?
Oh, Cantley all day. He should be like minus 1.5 on that one.
Yeah, he's a minus 0.5. All right. Now, I'm going to throw $2 into this, and it's a 10x prize, so hopefully that wins me $20.
Let's hope.
I love it. The neat thing about Monkey Knife Fight, too, is it's not like true prop bets. It's like their own little system, you know. It's very interesting. These rapid fires are really interesting.
Oh, yeah. Some of it's absolutely ridiculous, but it definitely panders to the degenerate gambler, which I don't know how I haven't gotten on there yet. I'm probably going to do that tonight.
I wish I had the Ovechkin, plus 2 goals prop bet last night. Jesus.
He go crazy?
It was he had a hat trick, and then a player in San Jose had a hat trick. The Capitals ended up losing to San Jose like 7-6.
Jeez, that would have been a good stack in DFS, huh?
Yeah. The guy who won everything and stacked it, which it was one of those people who play like 100 different freaking lineups, because nobody's gonna ever predict a stack like that.
Right.
But yeah, it was like a record scoring night for NHL on DK.
I believe it. Sounds of that. Yeah, it's going to be a fun week on DK though on golf. I mean, there's more contests than usual. It's almost like a little bit of a scaled down version of your major championship weeks, because you got Tiger back in the fold. The NFL's on the lull, so you got to play something on DK, right? So they're really ramping up these contests, which I love. So I will
with Tiger. Tiger just brings the casual player in.
Perfect 100%. Timing for him to come out.
It pains me to say this, but he's going to be very high owned in some of those lower stakes tournaments I like to play. So I'm probably going to fade Tiger and just let the public be way too heavily on him and load up on guys around him. As much as I love the man, it's his first event of the year, so you never know.
Yeah, I've only been playing one lineup a week, but I think I'm going to put 2 in. I'm going to do the stars and scrubs, and I'm going to do a nice balanced lineup and put both of them in.
Yeah, I mean, you can even play some of these like the $3 3 entry max. You spend $9, or you play the $5 3 entry max. I mean, the prize payouts aren't huge. I mean, the $5 you're looking at, you've got 1,500 up top. So put 3 entries in. That can allow you to kind of widen your player pool a little bit and have some fun with it.
Yeah, that's $1,500 would cover my last 3 months of playing DFS. So.
Yeah, you were killing on football for a while there too, right?
Football and hockey. Hockey, I was making like $30 a night on cash up till a couple of weeks ago.
Got to get back on that train.
Yeah, it's hard without a job.
If anybody's listening out there, hire this man, would you?
Yes, I need a job. I'm desperate.
Yeah.
You want to go really crazy? There's a $1 3,500 entry winner take all for $3,000 up top. So that could be an interesting one to get into.
To put all the Charles and all of the Cams all together?
Sure. Something dumb's going to happen. Like last week, I was so pissed off on Saturday when like all the Adams were climbing up the leaderboard. I'm like, if I would have gone with the danger theory and just played all the guys with my same first name, I'd be winning all the money right now. Are you kidding me?
You have to do that. It just has to be done. It's just.
I think I sent that message to you guys like mid Saturday. Like 4 out of the 5 or 4 out of the 6 top scorers on DraftKings were all like sub 7K. It was unreal. You basically could have just thrown some darts at the lower end of the player pool last week and been in the money pretty well.
Yeah, it was absolutely. All right, so what was the prop bets I saw today? They were talking about these prop bets, like the announcer for the Super Bowl. Would he open up with his trademark "Hi Friends" or "Hello Friends," whatever it is, and it was like 10,000 to 1. You had to put down like $10,000 to win a buck. It was hilarious. There's some crazy things out there. Some crazy things out there.
How do you guys feel about Romo on the broadcast with Nance?
I really like Romo a lot. I liked him when he first came out. Was it last year he started his first couple right away, and he was really good. And I really enjoy him. And I hate Troy Aikman and Witten. So let's get rid of all these Cowboys and just let Tony be the Cowboy voice.
Yeah, he can take it for the rest of them. I love Romo on broadcast. Like he was calling out plays before they happened in that KC Patriots game late in the game. It was awesome.
Yeah, he's really good. I was surprised how good he is. I don't mind Aikman, but I can't stand Joe Buck.
Yeah, what I like about it is that Romo showed in his career he's one of those elite guys, and I've talked about it on past shows where there's very good quarterbacks and there's elite quarterbacks, and the difference is being able to look out over that line and know what the defense is throwing at you based on movement and everything, right? And that's difficult. And Romo has that gift. And so when you see him basically calling out plays that Brady is going to do, because he sees it. He sees the motion, he sees it, he sees the Brady audible, and he knows, because he knows if I'm there, this is what I would do. And when you have a quarterback like Brady who has got obviously carte blanche to change whatever play and change whatever look he wants to, that's just a really cool thing to listen in and then see it happen on the field as he's talking about it.
Yeah, the problem with Romo is that he couldn't set the football down for the kicker.
Right, that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was painful. I was kind of when he was playing, like I was kind of a Romo truther. I thought he was a very, very underrated quarterback. I would go back and forth with my buddies on this. Like, I felt like he was one of the top players at his position in the league for many, many years and didn't get the credit he was due just because they never broke through in the big one. But he didn't have elite players around him.
The Cowboys.
I mean, who likes the Cowboys? But I remember I had him in like a fantasy league early on when he just broke through, and just watching him. I loved him ever since, just following his career. But he's even better in the broadcast booth maybe than he was as a quarterback.
He's good. Yeah. And from what I understand, a very good golfer.
Yes, he is. He's quite good.
Yeah. Some say he could have had a PGA career if he didn't play football.
That's very easy to say and much more difficult to do.
Yeah, he tried a couple of PGA tournaments.
Yeah. But when you spend your whole career playing football and you're not honing the golf craft, it's understandable.
I think he's made like second stage of U.S. Open qualifying for golf before, but I don't know, that doesn't always translate to being an actual like productive tour player. So
sure. Yeah, it would have been fun to watch a dual sport player like that, huh? have a football career, and on bye weeks he's out there golfing.
Yeah, it's a lot different than football, baseball, which we've seen several times. But
right, that'd be pretty entertaining. So yeah, I've seen him on a bunch of those pro-am tours. Of course, he usually shows up for quite a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, I'm just starting to get into baseball. I don't feel like I have enough to talk about it yet. Plus, there's so many shows on this great network on LennyMelnickSports.com and that are really deep into baseball right now. So I could go a little bit on it, but I feel like it'd be doing the channel a disservice with how many wonderful studs in the industry are on this channel. So let's skip that for another week. But
should we continue our mock draft?
Well, we could, but Chris isn't here. I don't know if you can get him on the text. We could try. But yeah.
After our show last week, I did do a couple of best ball, like way too early best ball drafts for next season.
I'm in one right now.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm in a slow draft.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in a slow draft. I've only got the first 4 picks. I'm up next, but the guy's been letting the timer run out. So my team's all right. I started out with Ezekiel Elliott, and then I felt like the elite running backs were coming to an end, so I went ahead and went with Damian Williams because I just think that Andy Reid throughout his whole career has always just run with one guy, and if it's going to be Williams, then that's just going to be another stud running back. So I had to open up there. And then I probably should have gone and grabbed like a Ertz or a Kelsey or taken somebody, bigger name to the tight end spot. But I ended up with Amari Cooper. I really felt like they made a connection. And I hate having 2 Dallas guys, but if Cooper can pull together some games like he did at the end of the season, that could be huge. And then I went ahead and took Robert Woods as my number 4 player. So it's okay. I don't really like the way it's shaping up so far, but the meat of the middle rounds is coming. So.
Yeah, it's interesting to see where players are going. That's obviously, 7 months before most fantasy drafts are going to happen, but it's definitely interesting to see. I love that format too. You guys play much basketball this past year?
Yeah, lost all of them.
Yeah, I lost them all too, but it's very good draft prep, so I like it. I just play the dollar tournaments usually, get the draft prep in, and then if you win a few bucks back, hooray.
Yeah, I had a reasonably successful fall with the best ball drafts. I think I profited like $20 on maybe 150 an entry, so it was well worth it to get the edge on some of the guys in my leagues.
For sure. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I was shocked that I had the number 4 overall pick and Zeke was there still. So somebody took Sony Michel number 2.
Holy crap.
Yeah, recency bias.
Yeah, I was going to say recency bias there.
So I'm sorry, number 3. They took Barkley number 1, Gurley number 2, Sony Michel number 3. And then I took Zeke Elliott, and then number 5 was Hopkins. So it was an interesting draft so far.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring this up. I was rethinking our top 5 that we were talking about last week.
Mm-hmm.
And so most likely Mark Ingram is not going to be in New Orleans next year.
Right.
Which, in my mind, brings Kamara up a couple of slots.
It does. I just don't know. I don't know why they went away from him at the halfway point, and I don't know if it was he was getting dinged up, it was too much for him, or they just found success in another formula. But he came out so huge. The first 8 weeks, he was just utterly dominant, and then absolutely nothing the last quarter of the year. So I got to look into him a little bit more before I start giving him that kind of top 5 look.
Yeah, I think he's a guy. If he's still there at 6, 7, somewhere in that range, and maybe like you said, Hopkins goes a little bit higher. I would have no problem taking him at 6 or 7, especially in a full PPR.
Right.
He's shown us on the outside, but I'm not sure he's like that workhorse back that's going to get the ball 25 touches a game.
For sure. And what I'm going to do here, because of the way I have my spreadsheet set up, because I don't have any great professional software, I'm doing it all by hand unless somebody knows better than I do. I'm going to load 200 players into our columns and then, just move those players around. And then I can sort alphabetically and it'll generate an ADP for us, which is kind of neat. So I'll get that loaded up and we can just play around with that as the off season continues. And it'll be something fun to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I got to run off for just a couple of minutes, so you guys talk about something fun, and I'll be back.
Mark, what's new in the beer world, man?
Nothing for me. I'm looking for a job.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, drinking beer is not a bad pastime. Talking sports.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky to be able to get like Hop Slam and some good beers out here lately. When I was actually working in the industry, I only drank my own stuff. So now that I'm no longer in it, I'm able to drink other people's stuff a little bit more. So that's kind of good.
Yeah, I'm a little bit ashamed to say I have not had a Hop Slam nut this year. How's the batch this year?
Actually, it's really good this year. It's probably the best batch in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I may have to go seek one out tonight, or maybe 2 if I'm feeling really saucy.
Yeah, I haven't had it out of the can yet. I've only had it on draft, and it was excellent.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go find myself one tonight. My typical watering hole has a great selection of beers, but I gotta say they're not great at like bringing the seasonals on when you get that Hop Slam this time of year. I mean, I'm not a huge Oberon fan, but like if you're a Michigan beer drinker, that's like a freaking holiday basically in Michigan when Oberon's released. But I got to get myself a Hop Slam tonight.
You're in Ann Arbor, aren't you?
I'm actually Royal Oak.
Royal Oak. Okay.
Yeah, I do spend a lot of time in Ann Arbor. Like last night, I'm a total maniac, so I drove to Ann Arbor directly after work, went to the Michigan basketball game, and then drove back. And that was probably 3.5 hours of driving. Looking back, if I knew the weather forecast, I would have totally sold my tickets. But it was like midday when I realized how bad the forecast was for 6 o'clock and on. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to tough it out now in my little Mazda. And I slipped and slid my way all the way to Ann Arbor and back. So it worked out just fine.
So what's your bar of choice?
I kind of like going to I don't mind Roke Brewery. They got some decent beers on draft. I like Oak City Grill's pretty good downtown, but the one I'm usually at is I shouldn't say usually. It makes me sound like I'm there every night. But Hamlin Corner on the north side of town, it's like very easily within walking distance for me.
Oh, yeah, I've been in there.
Yep, and they've got a lot of beers on draft, so pretty good selection if I want to go and watch a game or watch a late night golf broadcast and have a couple beers. It's a good place to go, but my one complaint is they don't bring in the seasonals as much as I would like your Hop Slam, so that's probably why I haven't had one yet this year.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm up here. I have a place called Red Baron, and it's 70 taps of just whatever they want to throw on, and they just rotate them. They rotate 5 of them blow a day. And they're just rotating it through crazy. It was like 2 weeks ago, I went out on the message boards. I'm like, where's Hop Slam on tap? And nobody had it. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to Red Baron, and they have CBS on tap, Canadian Breakfast Stout.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll just drink that. And then on my way there, I got the text from Red Baron saying, Hop Slam on tap. Like, sweet.
What perfect timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have my first CBS experience this winter. It was quite good. Shared a large bottle with my brother and very much enjoyed that. I think we talked about that on this very broadcast a few weeks ago.
Yeah, CBS, I like it better than KBS for sure.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Now the last couple batches haven't been as good. The batch 4 years ago was just outstanding. It's just out of this world.
Now they're going a little bit wider with their they're brewing a lot more of that this year, right? And kind of distributing it a little more.
Yeah, they used to only release it every 4 years.
Okay.
And now they release it every year, and they release it nationwide. So it used to be only every 4 years in Michigan only, and now it's every year nationwide.
Yeah, anytime you ramp up the amount you're brewing, the quality tends to go down a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if it's necessarily, I don't want to say quality, but it definitely, when you start making it in that big of batches, it changes the formula.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a little harder to dial in. So usually, like Oberon's a great example. Oberon, when they first went to the 500 barrel batches in the new facility, it was terrible for about 2 years, and then last year it got really good again. So it took them a few cycles to get it back to where it was. And Oberon also cracks me up because it's available year-round everywhere but Michigan. So any state that Bell's is in, Oberon is year-round except for Michigan.
Yeah, it's incredible that Two Hearted from Bell's is like the number one selling IPA nationwide now.
Oh, yeah.
It's really taken off.
And that's good for them, though. Because I went into this little dive bar next to me. I mean, this is like, it's like biker pool table Bud Light type of bar. Mm-hmm. And they have Two Hearted. It's the only craft beer in the entire joint. I'm like, sweet.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than drinking the normal, like you said, those light beers, those piss beers that are on draft everywhere.
Yeah. Because I like going in there because they have $2.50 burgers that are just phenomenal. It's like just a classic bar burger. It's like, now I can get Too Hard with it? All right, I'm good.
Places that crack me up are the ones that have like 3 taps total, and 2 of them are like Bud Light, Miller Lite. You're like, really? People are that picky and they want 2 light beers on draft out of 3? Come on.
That's just all right. Twitter just sent me recommended for you Carrie Underwood's photo. I have no idea why it would ever recommend this to me.
Yes, you do. Let's be honest. Come out with it.
No.
She's she opens football broadcasts on Sunday night, right? So that's what it is.
I voted for her on American Idol back in the day.
Yeah, she has changed her image quite a bit since those days.
Yeah.
And good for her. She's doing making a great career out of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Want to talk a little more Tiger here? What's going on? What do we want to do?
I don't know. Yeah, you're the Tiger expert. I'm actually not a Tiger fan.
I'm sorry to hear that. We're no longer friends.
You want to know what's really funny is my parents are huge lefty fans. So, not that I grew up with it, but the last 2 decades, it was always cheering for lefty over Tiger.
Right. That didn't work out very well overall.
I learn new things to hate about you on a daily basis, Mark.
Yeah, well.
No kidding. Thanks for chiming in right on cue there, Dan.
You're very welcome.
Hey, I'm just telling you how I was influenced as a child.
Yeah.
Or a young adult.
Poorly, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, you're old enough to make your own decisions now, so I blame you for that one.
So one of my buddies who actually plays in our Draft For Upside DK league, he used to be the Players Club manager at Warwick Hills here in Michigan, and he will tell you both Lefty and Tiger are a couple of a-holes. So
Yep.
Can't really get behind
both
either
look
of them.
like it.
Right?
Yeah.
He actually said the best part he ever said was, everything you hear about John Daly is 100% true, and he's as awesome as you think he is.
Yep. I've heard that time and time again.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's like, he basically he got to see how all of these people treated wait staff and saw how they tipped and how they treated the people around them. And, it was eye-opening for him. And, I had a lot of insight into those guys back in the day. We actually used to play fantasy golf before it was ever a thing on Yahoo or anything. We'd just pick 6 players every week in a back and forth snake draft between me, him, and the bar manager, and lowest combined score would win the weekly prize. It was $20 a week for everybody. $10 was the weekly prize. The other $10 was a progressive prize where you had to pick the winner. It was highly entertaining.
Sounds like a pretty cool format.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I learned long ago, becoming just a rabid sports fan, that I wasn't rooting for guys because of them being good human beings. Like, that's a bonus.
Right. True story.
I kind of figured out really on that maybe these guys aren't great human beings all the way around, but
yeah, whoever decided sports stars were to be role models is just a moron.
Yeah, I think Barkley said it best, way back when in his Nike ad. He's not a role model, and it's not what they're supposed to be.
Right. That's nice that some of them are.
Sure. Like I said, it's a bonus.
It's not a requirement to be a good sports player.
Right. I root for Tiger, knowing that he's probably a prick of a human being. I just love watching the guy play golf. It's absolutely incredible.
I mean, Michael Jordan, same thing.
But there's a line, right?
Yeah,
I'm okay with you're a dick, but when you start beating on people.
Yeah, that's about the end of that.
Michael Jordan's a totally different animal too. I'm not a Jordan fan, but
right.
I
love watching him play. I wasn't a fan of him. Yeah, but I enjoyed watching him play. Like LeBron, I don't much care for LeBron. I actually like his acting career more than I like him on the court. But I enjoy watching him play. You have to just step back and say, this is a sport, and this person is incredible at it.
By all accounts, though, LeBron's actually a pretty decent dude. Like,
yeah,
you've never heard of anything with adultery. He's always been loyal to his wife. He's a great father to his kids.
Sweetheart too, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you got to respect that when it seems like someone's a good dude. But yeah, I don't root for Tiger because he's a great guy. I root for him because he's incredible to watch on the golf course. That's where I leave it.
Hey, Jordan, I always liked Jordan until he got Isaiah banned from the Olympic team.
Oh, 92.
Yeah, it was just a personal vendetta against the Pistons. It was just like, oh,
sure,
really?
But you know what, man? Like, go back and watch that 30 for 30 on the rise of Jordan. And if it were not for the bad boys beating him in those playoffs, he would not be the player he is, because he realized he needed to be more physical and dominant. And he went on and put out muscle, and he went on and learned a whole nother skill set that turned him into the greatest player ever. He was not that person until after the bad boys put him down.
Oh, no, totally. But it was just the fact that he hated him so much that he said he wouldn't play in the Olympics if you had Isaiah Thomas on the team.
Yeah, to be fair, the Pistons were a dirty, filthy team.
But it was great.
It was fun to watch.
I would do nothing of the sort. They were just a rugged team taking advantage of the at that time. They made up new rules.
Isaiah wasn't dirty. Isaiah just supported it.
Right. They were the kind of guys that like step on your toes as you're about to do a layup, so you just fall flat. They were just mean. It was fun to watch, though.
God, Lambeer with his 2-arm block you across the chest and drop you to the court.
Rick Mahorn elbows, man. Geez.
So
fun
good
to watch.
Times have changed. Now you can't even hand check a dude dribbling the ball. It's pretty rough.
Yeah. Well, now games are like 138 to 127.
Yeah, I mean, games were a lot more high scoring in the Bad Boys era than people realize.
They were, but yeah, for sure.
It was more rugged, but they still didn't play all that tight of defense overall.
Right.
Bad Boys Pistons. Let's talk a little more about that.
Right. Go on all night.
I could, certainly.
Well, Mark, since you are the jobless wonder,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been watching some entertaining television, Netflix, movies. What's on your mind? What do I got to watch?
What do you have to watch?
I watched Bandersnatch.
Which was terrible. I hated
It was
it.
okay. It was fine.
Oh, I hated it.
It wasn't great. It was fine. I had higher hopes because I liked Black Mirror so much.
I love Black Mirror, but Bandersnatch was. It wasn't really even choose your own adventure because if you choose the wrong action, it just said go choose the other one.
Right.
It was really dumb. Because if you choose what they didn't want you to choose, it just said go choose the other one or stop the video.
Right. Yeah,
and it was like,
true.
So this isn't really a choose your own adventure. They're forcing you down a path.
Right. Yeah, marketing budget and all, Mark.
Oh, terrible.
Have either of you watched that Fire Festival documentary on Netflix, or I think it was on Hulu?
Yeah, I just watched it this morning, actually. There's one on each. There's two
How'd you like
different
it?
ones. Yeah, there's one on. I watched the Netflix one this morning.
I haven't even heard of it.
What was your take of it on it?
It's a very good documentary, and I can't believe this guy. Oh my God! Do you know what the Fire Festival is, Danger?
I do not.
So, Ja Rule and this investment guy bought an island and decided to put on a music festival, but it all turned out to be a giant financial scam. And when the people showed up on the island, they were, instead of getting they were supposed to have luxury cabins and backstage passes and gourmet food. They were put in FEMA tents and given 2 slices of bread with a piece of cheese in them.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I did watch the first half of the first episode of Surviving R. Kelly.
I haven't seen that.
Pretty much got the gist of it and don't need to watch the rest of it. So he's a terrible human being who preys on young women and is basically brainwashing him and locking him in his house. That's about the gist of it. So.
What'd you think of that Fire Festival, Adam?
I haven't actually watched it yet, but I've heard a lot about it, and it cracks me up that Ja Rule's coming out and saying, I had nothing to do with it. I was scammed too, and I didn't know it was going to be this big financial scam, and I'm definitely going to check it out here in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole idea of the thing is just the guy's gone for what, 5-6 years jail sentence now.
Yeah, I think he got sentenced to 6 years.
Yeah, not going to be worth it in the end. Not surprisingly, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I will soon for sure.
But it was all the thing that cracked me up the most, in having worked in the corporate world, it was just cracking me up. I was laughing my ass off because they were talking to all the former employees. They're like, so we went to Bill and we said this can't be done. You can't do this. We're out of money, or we can't do this. And he went, look, if you don't want to be here, you can just leave because we only do solutions.
That's funny.
What? What sense does that make?
Exactly. And I've been in so many corporate offices where they're like, we don't want to hear the negative. We only want to hear the solution to the problem. We don't want you to say no, you can't do it. You need to have a solution. Well, if you can't do it, you can't do it.
Yeah. No. Nothing good comes of just ignoring all the negative. That's for sure. So, Adam, are you going to play any seasonal baseball? Are either you going to play any seasonal baseball leagues? Or not really your thing? I'm just curious. I think Chris said he's going to.
Unless we have a Draught For Upside league, then probably not. I don't typically do do the baseball thing. I do typically some season-long basketball, obviously a ton of golf and many different formats, but I don't follow baseball closely enough to stay on top of it day to day. So I don't feel like I'm
just curious. I'm going to help Lou Landers here. We're going to put together some listener/host leagues, because I think there's enough hosts that want to play baseball, obviously being a predominantly baseball channel for the moment, that there's going to be too many for one league. And so we're definitely going to have a Draft for Upside team. So you'll be able to ride along with me on that at least. So I'm gonna try to help out with that and get that rolling as we get a little closer here. I got to get past football first. I'm too focused in. It's my jam. I'm excited for the Super Bowl. Am I excited for the Super Bowl? Are you excited for the Super Bowl?
Nah, I'm not really excited about it.
I tell you why I'm excited. I'm excited because I want the Patriots to just dominate the game, and I want all of those people to walk away and retire. That's what I want.
I've always been a pretty big Brady fan, so I'm excited for him to get a chance at like just putting any argument to rest of who the greatest quarterback, at least, and maybe player of all time is. So I'll be watching it. I think the Patriots always play entertaining Super Bowls, right? Like if they had one that was more than a possession.
Right.
So I think it's going to be another good Super Bowl, but
I'll never forget the amount of money that quickly fled my wallet in the Atlanta game.
Oh my God, that had to be painful.
It hurt so bad. I have these annual bets. I was, we were joking around with Chris last week that keep my $5 and we'll keep a running bet. Well, I have this with a guy, and I even went so far. I think what was the spread for that game? I can't remember what it was. Atlanta was favored by something, right? Was it 5 or 6? I mean, it was a big spread in favor of Atlanta, wasn't it?
New England was favored. I think it was 3.5.
I thought it was maybe we were just taking that bet, but I was so confident in the Falcons that I took a ridiculous spread, and then I said, hey, better than that, if they double that victory, I'll double the money. And we just mouthing off and halftime, what was it, like 31-7 at halftime or whatever? I mean, it was such a beat down. I just was second half bets with people, all kinds, and then I just sat there with basically my head in my hands the rest of the game. And I knew it as soon as they came out and threw that pick six, or they threw that interception, and the Patriots scored immediately in the third quarter. I just it's over. Brady's winning this game. It's right there. Third quarter. I'm like, it's over. Brady wins this game. And everybody in the room's like, no way. There's never been a comeback. I said, it's over. You could just see it's over. It was so miserable. So miserable. Well, I just hate him so much. I can't wait. I just want him. I want him to win by like 40, and then have all of them just walk off and retire. That's what I want.
Yeah, that's why I'm not really excited about it, because they're always there. I'm bored with it.
Mm-hmm. I think you could see some low ratings, TV wise. So it'll be interesting to see.
I'm actually on the other side of danger. I kind of enjoy watching dynasties. It fascinates me. Especially in a league like the NFL, which is so set up for parity. You've got this coach, and really the only two constants in that entire organization have been, if you're not counting Bob Kraft, the coach and the quarterback, right?
Sure, yeah. And Vince Wilfork.
And 2002 to 2019, I mean, it's the greatest dynasty in the history of sports, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Yeah, when I saw them into this playoffs, I just knew they were going. I've been with them the whole time. So they're going. It's over. And I think they win. Yeah. I think they absolutely win.
I think
they might
win too.
They might just ride off into the sunset after they do.
I hope so. I hope so much.
I will say, as much as I love watching the dynasties, it just feels like that page is ready to be turned, right? You're ready to see somebody new take over and watch the...
I mean, look at that team. They're going to the Super Bowl with Gronk having probably his worst season ever, with Brady not being super dominant, with no wide receivers worth anything outside of a game here and there from Edelman, a defense who, you never know what kind of team shows up on their defense. They're just not that good of a team in any facet, but yet it all just works. It all just works. Sony Michel comes up with these huge games when they need him to. It just just weird, just a weird team to watch this year. And somehow you just knew, with the lack of talent that they've had all year long, that they were just going to be here. You just knew it. You just knew it.
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't know what else to say. I mean, you have to marvel at their the dynasty they put together in this era. But I think it's time for the young guns. The Patrick Mahomes is I don't know, Jared Goff. Do you consider him a young gun? I'm not.
Yeah, I do, and but his head coach too. I mean, it's been fun to watch what they've done, and yeah, I can't wait. It would have certainly been more entertaining to see a Rams versus Chiefs Super Bowl than it would have been to see a Saints versus Pats. It definitely would have. It would have been fun to watch the two young teams. Outside of Andy Reid, the two teams, coaching staff, and everything is super young, super new, super on top of the new stats and the new way to play the game, and it's going to be interesting to see, because those guys, they're over. I mean, Breeze has got maybe another year or so left. Brady's pretty much done. Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, all these guys are pretty much done. So it's going to be a changing of the guard, and it's going to come pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you got a few more years maybe out of Aaron Rodgers playing at his highest level. I mean, Big Ben's on the way out too in Pittsburgh. They're kind of a mess. Yeah, I mean, it's there for the taking for these young up and coming franchises, and I think, and the pairing of Andy Reid and Mahomes long term, you got to like those guys for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
If they can get anything out of their defense, they'll be hard to beat.
It's true, man. They've really got a nice team set up there, and they're going to bring in another running back, of course, probably in the draft. But I mean, Damian Williams has looked good, so I dig it. Dig it. Well, I need a refresh of the water, and I'm got nothing else to say, Mark. Should we call it early?
Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal to call it 5 minutes early.
Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out, guys. Chris, if you're listening, I hope you feel better, and we'll continue on with our ADP for 2019 as it goes. I'll have some baseball stuff ready when football's officially done. Lou and I and Andrea and everybody are working on getting some baseball listener leagues and host leagues going, so we'll have that to chat about. I would like, outside of the DK, I think it'd be fun just to put together something like I used to do with my restaurant group, Adam, where we just kind of pick players. I think we should put something together for you, me, Chris, and Mark. I think that'd be fun. Just something simple, something easy. We can pick players, during the show, make it quick, 4 players, 5 players, whatever. I think that'd be fun too. So
that's fine. I need to learn fantasy baseball, so.
Yeah, we'll have some fun, and I've got some great materials that I'm happy to share. Listen to this channel. If you want to learn fantasy baseball, my God, listen to this channel. This channel is incredible. The absolute talent and knowledge on this channel is insane. I listen to SiriusXM all day, every day. I'm a salesperson. I listen to that. I listen to some podcasts, but there's no better talent than's on this channel right now. And we need some polishing, and we need some finishing touches, and we need the launch and everything to go smoothly. But this channel is amazing, and I am so happy to be part of it.
Very well said.
Yeah, I love it. So check us out, LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. You can check out the live chat room. There is shows pretty much 24/7, and the Legend Fantasy Sports Network is coming soon. So that's going to be something fun.
All right. Well, thank you. This is Draught For Upside, and we will see you next week.
Tiger Woods, y'all.